Welcome back. Today I'd like to talk about out-of-body experiences. Now maybe you've had an out-of-body experience, maybe you would like to have an out-of-body experience, or maybe you would just like to understand how does that work? How does that fit into something like meditation or Kriya Yoga? How does this all fit together? And as you might know, I like to put everything in terms of the nervous system and the brain, because that's when things really start to make sense. And it's absolutely fascinating. It's really fascinating, and it's something you probably can't find anywhere else. So let's get into it. So first of all, you might say, Forrest, well, I've never had an out-of-body experience, so I don't have any reference. How would I go about having an out-of-body experience? Well, the thing that will enable it is when you can separate the feeling of your body, I have a body, that identity, and then I have an energetic body. I have a feeling of the energy inside of that body. If you can separate those two, then you can have an out-of-body experience, and that reflects back in the brain. So we're going to get into that. So how do I do that, Forrest? Well, there's a very simple exercise that Todd Murphy talks about, and I really, really like it. It's a great example of how to do this. You lay down on your bed, and maybe you move just a little bit. And the idea is to keep that feeling of moving and then be still. So I'm just going to move a little bit. I'm going to relax in my bed and just move a little bit, turning in my bed. And then keep that feeling while I'm still. And boom, you will release the part of your brain which is associated with your life, and the part which is associated with the energy in your body will be free, and it will start roaming through your right brain. And that's kind of a little bit of what is happening in the brain. We're going to break it down more than that. Here's one more exercise which is kind of interesting. I want you to imagine, if you like, close your eyes and imagine that you are way, way far away. Pick a destination which is not too far from where you are right now, which is about 30, 40, 50 feet, 100 feet away from you, and put your mind there. Imagine that you are standing there, right? You are far away, 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet away. And now slowly float back to yourself, okay? And I want you to float very carefully once you get about 20 to 15 feet away. And I want you to notice when you hit the 15 mark, you'll feel a bit, if you're sensitive and you notice and you pay attention, when you hit about 15 feet, there's a snap. It's okay to project yourself 100 feet away, but when you hit about 15 feet, you'll notice that astral form snaps back into you. All right? So you place your mind 100 feet away, you're standing there, you're looking around at whatever that is. All right? Now we're engaging expansion and the right brain. As we do that, and then float back to yourself and start noticing it about 25 feet, 20 feet, 15 feet, 15, 14 feet. Boom, you snap right back to yourself. I want you to notice that snap. Maybe you've got to be very relaxed to feel this. Try it out. Try it out multiple times. See if you can notice that snapping back to yourself that I'm talking about. It's an exercise. It's an interesting exercise. Okay, so now you have two techniques to play with. Interesting, right? So what is going on in our brains, right? Well, first of all, as doctors, we're beginning to study the brain and study the left temporal lobe in particular. they noticed that it looks like the same experience that is going on when somebody's high on drugs and hallucinating things. When that happens, the temporal lobe is lit up. And what happens in our daily life? The temporal lobe is lit up. And they looked at those two energetic signatures and they said, oh my God, it's the same thing. And this is reflected in the writings of Sri Yukteswar when he's talking in the Holy Science, and he says, the wise man reflects on his dream and he reflects on his life, and he goes, oh my God, these are the same kind of thing. How do I know that I'm not living in a dream? The same thing happened to the doctors. They looked at the temporal lobe during a hallucination on drugs, and they looked at a temporal lobe hallucinating life. They said, oh my God, it's the same. So the temporal lobe is active to hallucinate our lives. And this is why psychologists say, well, you're projecting, you are projecting, you are projecting all the time. That's like 95% of all psychology is all about you projecting. Why? Because you have a temporal lobe and you're projecting your whole life. And what you believe is what you're going to project and see in your life. That's what you'll begin to pick out of your life, is what you hold in your heart. Fascinating, right? Oh my God. Everything's right there. Now the yogis, they have this fantastic idea of koshas. And so that's just like a Russian nesting doll, right? We've got the tiny little doll inside, and then we've got another doll on top of that, and then we've got another doll on top of that, and another doll on top of that. And the yogis are saying, look, this is not you, okay? This is not you. Okay, this is not you. Okay, now we're getting close to what is you. We're getting down to the bottom, right? That's the idea of koshas. And we can see this in the temporal and parietal lobe. It's very, very fascinating. So if you read about the temporal lobe, what I'm talking about, if you read about the temporal lobe and how we are hallucinating our lives, they will also start talking about the parietal lobe. In fact, they talk about it like this, because those two things are operating simultaneously all the time, because they are two koshas working together all of the time. And the first one is your physical life. You are hallucinating that physical life. And then right underneath that, your mind, your body, is continuously mapping everything that's going on inside of your system. It's continually sending out a message. Hey, what's going on? How is the traffic in the body? Just like Google Maps, right? They send it out and they find out what's the information, what's going on, and you know there's a traffic jam over there, and that's projected back on your little map, right? So you look on your phone, oh, there's a traffic jam over there. How do you know that? Because Google is sending you that information, right? As an example, or your GPS, whatever GPS system you're using. In the same way, your parietal lobe, left parietal lobe specifically, is sending out a message. Hey, what's going on? Send me the information. And it sends it all back, and it creates a map, an image, a projection of your body. And that's the little map inside of your parietal lobe, and it mixes with the temporal lobe, your physical existence, which is being projected as a hallucination, and those two hallucinations come together, and inside all of that is your identity, right? This is what I am. You are attached to the body and the life that you have and the story that you have, and you say, this is what I am. That's your identity. And then over that is your parietal lobe telling you the story of having a body, the projection of your body, the idea of your body. And then over that is your physical existence that you are hallucinating right now. And that is what we are primarily in a nutshell. That process of the left brain, and then you have your memory, that's the left hippocampus, that's the story of your life somewhere deep inside of that. Oh my God, all your life is right there. All your life is right there in the left brain. Yoga is a journey from that left brain into the expansiveness and the knowingness and the deep, profound intuition of the right brain. That's our journey, right? We go up the spine through the processes of the dorsal vagal, through Om Japa and the chakras. We roll up into the brain, and we don't just go up, we cross over. There's a crossing that takes place. And the yogi won't necessarily feel that crossing, right? We just feel it kind of this way. And we go out the crown and we expand. By the way, I've said, don't breathe through the brain. It's not a good idea to breathe through the brain. So how does the Kriya Yogi solve this problem? He comes up and he enters into the tranquil breath, and then he floats through the brain. That's just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, expansion is a really, really good thing. That's what we want in our deep meditation, right? So the yogi is traveling out of that left brain into the freedom of the right brain. And along the way, he will occasionally have a partial freedom and not a whole freedom. So in that partial freedom, you can be free of the temporal hallucination and still have an astral body, an energetic body, the projected body of the parietal lobe. So the scientists and the doctors, they won't get into this because they're not interested in explaining something like an out-of-body experience, but it's right there. They already understand there's two processes going on. One is hallucinating your life, one is hallucinating the feelings of your body in a projection which forms what we call the astral form, the energetic body. That is the second layer underneath the layer of your life. So you've got the life that you are hallucinating, the physical world around you. Underneath that is the energetic form. So when you're free of the left temporal lobe, you start floating around with the next sheath, which is the energetic body. So you're still trapped. You're still trapped in this idea that I have this form. I have to have this form. And so you float around with that form. And it's a partial freedom. And that's what an out-of-body experience is. It's a partial freedom. It's not a whole freedom. And the yogi is looking to let go of even that. And that's why I keep saying, yeah, energy, 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 that's great. But what about consciousness? That's the next step. We want to let go of the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, and even what we thought we were, we begin to let that go and recompute it and be associated more and more profoundly with expansion, with bliss, with joy. These are the things that the yogi is looking for, and the non-dual state. Not dualistic, not you and me, just one. That's the deep, deep samadhi that the yogi is looking for. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. It's a peeling away and a peeling away. And sometimes we're halfway, and that's the out-of-body experience that you might have. You might have it in your dreams. It might happen in a meditation. I had one yogi, he said I was going on this amazing hike up in the hills, and suddenly I was floating up above my own body, watching myself hike. Isn't that amazing? So you never know how these things are going to show up. When are you going to unlock from the left brain? But everything that I'm teaching on this channel, heart rate variability resonance, Om Japa in the chakras, sitting very still, entering into the tranquil breath, the freeze response, and the roll-up of consciousness. All of these things are unlocking you from the left brain, entering into expansion, into the non-dual state. That's everything that I'm teaching. So I hope you loved this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you.